You were not meant to stumble across this message. What appears like a coincidence is, in truth, a carefully timed interruption sent by the Most High. There's a truth waiting to be revealed, and once it's spoken, you will never look at her the same way again. This isn't about omens, nor is it about distant prophecies or strangers from forgotten dreams. This is about someone close, your sister, the one you've walked beside, laughed with, maybe even wept for, the one you thought you understood. But heaven has watched in silence, until now. What she's hidden isn't coming into the light to shame her, it's coming to protect you. Because God sees what you cannot. And in this very hour, He is moving through this message to awaken what's been asleep within your spirit. Even as these words reach you, her name is echoing through the spirit realm, carried on wings of urgency. The veil is thinning. What was once concealed must now be brought into view, not by force, but by truth. For 3 days, Archangel Michael has been dispatched, circling your life, trying to reach your heart. And from the throne room itself came a request, not from a messenger, but from the Most High. Tell the chosen one, tell them before it's too late. The sorrow will be heavier if they delay, but the healing will be deeper if they listen. And so here it is, delivered not in thunder or flame, but as a quiet urgency pressed upon your soul. You felt it, haven't you? That cold distance, the flicker in her eyes that didn't quite match her smile, that unspoken shift that no one else seemed to notice. The Most High affirms, your spirit was not wrong to notice. The Lord reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with Him. Daniel 2:22. This message is not judgment, it is mercy. Heaven is giving you eyes to see, not to condemn, but to choose wisely. So now, as you step forward into this divine role, declare your readiness, type Amen in the comments below. Not as a ritual, but as a sign that you are listening, that your heart is open, that you are ready to receive what heaven has kept hidden until now. And stay with this message until the very end. A powerful prayer awaits you. One that will seal this truth in your spirit and bring peace where confusion once lived. Now listen closely, chosen one. What is about to be spoken is not for idle ears or wandering hearts. It is sacred, it is sensitive, and it is spoken not to wound, but to awaken. Your sister is not lost to darkness, but she has wandered down a path not lit by the hand of God. Not once, but many times He reached for her. Softly at first, then through dreams, then through warnings. But she did not turn. And because what she carries now threatens to spill into your life, heaven has lifted the veil. You must see what's been hidden. For a while you may have dismissed that quiet unease as paranoia. Perhaps you told yourself she was just tired, just distant, just going through something she'd never say out loud. And yet your spirit kept catching glimpses, little moments when her silence didn't feel peaceful but loaded, heavy, like a secret pressing against the walls of your home. The truth is, 6 months ago, she made a decision. One she thought was hers alone. But in the spirit realm, no act is isolated. That decision became a doorway. And from that doorway, something entered, not evil in its purest form, but deceptive, hungry, and quietly powerful. It made a home behind smiles and small talk, and it has been influencing the atmosphere of your house ever since. The angels saw it, God saw it, and now you're seeing it, not in vision, but in clarity. This is not about punishment, it's about preparation. For what remains concealed will soon come to light. There will be a moment, 3 days from now, or perhaps sooner, when something seemingly small will cross your path. A phone left unlocked, a message half erased, a transfer of money that doesn't add up, and in that moment, a veil will be torn. You will see clearly. But you must not react from the wound. Do not shout, do not point, do not fall into the trap of blame. Because what you'll be touching is not just a secret. It's a spiritual agreement your sister never had the wisdom to break. Some agreements, beloved, are made without candles or words. They're made in silence when the heart turns from light and seeks relief in something that does not come from God. And that's what happened. She called on something else in her weakness. She did not know the weight it would carry, but heaven knew, and heaven acted. Let it be known, God does not shame. God warns to protect. God reveals to redeem. And yes, there will be a confrontation. There must be, because no relationship built on illusion can withstand what's coming. But this confrontation is not to destroy. It is to purify. For only what's rooted in truth will survive the storm. You feel it, don't you? That trembling in your chest, that odd sense of weariness that's hung over you lately. The nights where sleep seemed thin, where your thoughts felt like waves crashing too loudly in your own head. That was not your imagination. That was the spiritual realm pressing against your awareness, urging you to wake up. There is a letter, or maybe a screenshot, something real, tangible, hidden, but waiting. It carries your name, not just literally, but spiritually, because it was always meant to reach you. It is the final clue, the missing piece that will make every strange feeling you've carried finally make sense. And when it comes, breathe. That moment will not be the end. It will be the bridge. From confusion to clarity, from suspicion to confirmation, from fear to freedom. Do not hate your sister. She did not set out to harm. But harm has taken root in her silence, and harm left in the dark becomes poison, but exposed to the light, it becomes a wound that can heal. The Spirit of the Lord has already surrounded you. Archangel Michael has been assigned to your side, and though you didn't see him, you felt him in the moments you pulled back without knowing why, in the sudden chills, in the way certain conversations stopped short, like something invisible was blocking the words. That was protection. The deception is real, but so is the mercy. And now, light has entered. Light that reveals, light that heals. So remember this, chosen one. Caring without clarity opens the door to chaos. And God has not called you to live in confusion. He has called you to live in peace. But peace only thrives where truth is welcome. And truth has just walked into the room. Archangel Michael has not turned away. His voice still echoes in the quiet, carrying the weight of what has not yet been said. The truth has not finished unfolding, and though your sister may be unaware of what's coming, you will not be, because heaven has chosen you to see clearly, deeply, spiritually, before it arrives. You will begin to notice the signs. They won't shout, they'll whisper. Patterns will emerge, repeating numbers, passing comments from strangers, dreams that feel too detailed to dismiss, a conversation overheard, a sentence that lands harder than it should. These are not coincidences, they are the fingerprints of God, gently preparing you for what the flesh cannot anticipate but the spirit can recognize. And when the moment of truth arrives, it will not be loud. There will be no chaos, no slammed doors. It will be still. The confrontation will come not from anger, but from grace. You will speak, not to wound, but to shine light. And though your sister may deflect, dismiss, or even smile through denial, do not be moved. For the truth does not depend on acknowledgement to remain true. Heaven does not argue. Heaven reveals. And within 24 hours of that moment, the veil will lift. What has been hidden will surface, not because you forced it, but because God allowed it. That is how divine justice moves. Not with fists, but with quiet, unwavering light. And here is what heaven needs you to understand. This warning is not only about what has been done, it is about what was almost done. Had this message not reached you, your sister was one step away from making a decision, one that would have opened a door so deep in the spirit that both your lives would have been affected. The consequences would have spread like roots underground, unseen but damaging. And so heaven intervened, not to scare you, but to spare you. Because divine love doesn't only comfort, it interrupts, it protects before the pain begins. You may be asking, why now? Why this? Why you? Because the Lord searches not for the loudest voice, but for the quiet heart that listens. And yours has been tuned to heaven longer than you realized. Even when you doubted your own discernment, even when you second-guessed the uneasy feeling in your chest, heaven did not. And now that you've heard this, you must also hear something harder but freeing. There is jealousy. Your sister, though she loves you in her own way, has harbored silent comparison in her heart. She never spoke it, but it seeped into her decisions, into her words, into the way she positioned herself beside you. She convinced herself that no one could see, but God saw, and in His mercy, He has chosen not to shame her, but to heal the wound at its root. That wound began long ago, in a forgotten moment. A small remark, a glance from someone both of you looked up to, a comment that to you meant nothing, but to her whispered, "You are second." And that whisper stayed through the years, through heartbreak, through celebrations, through every time she smiled and clapped while feeling less than inside. That unspoken pain became a shadow. It shaped her choices, especially the ones that involved you. Now, hear this, none of this is your fault, but the shadow has grown too long, and the light of God will not let it linger over your destiny, not when He has plans for you, not when blessings are already circling, waiting to descend. But those blessings cannot land in a space clouded with confusion and quiet resentment. That's why things have felt off lately. That's why prayers have seemed to echo back unanswered. You've been doing all you can, but the interference was near, too near. It was spiritual static, coming from someone too close to your soul. Now the cleansing begins, and with it, a deeper truth. There is someone your sister has been speaking to, someone who once shared space with you, a person you trusted, or maybe even loved. Behind closed doors, conversations have taken place, words that twisted parts of your story, not with outright lies, but with just enough distortion to cast doubt. She didn't think it would matter, but words have power, and in the spirit realm, even whispers leave footprints. Do not be afraid, because once a falsehood is pulled into the light of God, it cannot survive. The moment truth is revealed, deception withers. That moment is coming, and you won't need to lift a finger. You will not fight this in the flesh. Heaven is already fighting for you in the spirit. Your only task now is to stay grounded, stay still, love through the discomfort. Let God defend you in the places where you feel defenseless, and when the smoke clears, and it will, you will rise, not broken, but purified, not bitter, but wiser. The blessing you've been waiting on, the relationship, the breakthrough, the long-awaited clarity was never denied. It was simply delayed, held back until the space around you could carry its weight in truth. That delay ends now. If your hands are trembling, if tears sit quietly in your eyes, it is not because you are weak, it is because your soul is receiving confirmation. This message was meant for you. And now that you carry it, heaven can move as it was always meant to. The healing has begun, the light has entered, and from this moment forward, nothing will stay hidden for long. And now, let us return to her, your sister. Even now, though she cannot explain it, she will begin to feel something stir within her. A weight, subtle yet undeniable, a pressure in the soul. It is not guilt as the world knows it, nor fear. It is the presence of angels, hovering near, not to punish but to begin the holy work of awakening. You must not judge her in this time. Do not accuse, do not expose her with words rooted in pain. What is happening now is delicate, sacred. She is standing on the edge of a spiritual reckoning, and heaven has chosen you, not as her judge, but as her witness. Stay near to God, for He is about to do something through you that will echo through generations. This is not only about healing a rift between siblings, this is generational restoration, a breaking of patterns that have traveled silently through your bloodline. Archangel Michael has spoken. There is a reason this message found you, not her, because the one who carries the strongest spirit is entrusted with the deepest truths, and heaven says, you have been chosen to hold this moment, not because it is easy, but because you were born with the strength to carry what others buried. And now, something must be revealed. There is a truth, an old one. Your sister withheld something from you years ago. It was small in appearance but large in consequence. A choice was made. A truth was concealed. She knew something that would have shaped a major decision in your life. Perhaps a move, a job, a relationship, a door you walked through or walked past. At the time, you couldn't quite explain the inner turmoil, the sudden shift in peace, the betrayal you felt but couldn't name. But heaven kept the record. And now God says, what was hidden will be revealed. What was stolen will be returned, not for shame, but for cleansing, not for punishment, but for peace. You are walking into your season of restoration. But before the light can rest upon your home, the shadows must be named. And now that you've seen them, heaven can begin to move. In the days ahead, you may find yourself near her, unexpectedly. A passing visit, a casual conversation. And in that moment, you'll feel it. Not anger, but a tightening in your chest. That is spiritual awareness rising. Don't speak right away. Don't explain. Just breathe. Let God fill the silence. He will speak through your stillness. And when your eyes meet hers, she will know. Not from your words, but from the weight of heaven, standing quietly behind you. There is no need to force confession, no need to beg for truth. The truth is already unraveling, and your peace will speak louder than any accusation ever could. But now, hear something sacred, something even time tried to erase. There is an object, small, forgettable to the world, but holy. It may be a photo, a bracelet, a scribbled note tucked away in an old drawer, or a torn journal page sealed in dust. And it is about to return to your hands, perhaps by accident, perhaps by divine placement. And the moment your fingers touch it, your soul will know. Because that object carries a memory, the last moment of innocence before the distance between you and your sister began. She didn't throw it away, she kept it, hidden, quiet. It was her silent way of holding on to love, even while bitterness grew. And heaven says, that object is coming back to you. Not as proof, but as healing, because healing is still possible. Even after all this, God never exposes darkness to frighten his children. He reveals it so he can set them free. Now hear this, the next 3 nights are sacred. Michael speaks again. Tell them, this is not a time for chaos or confrontation. This is a time for quiet preparation. A divine interruption is approaching, a moment heaven has marked. In those nights, your dreams may shift, your rest may feel restless. But don't resist it. That is not sleeplessness. It is awakening, because on the 3rd night, something will be spoken into your spirit. A name, a memory, a phrase long forgotten. And when you hear it, say nothing. Just write it down. That will be the final key, the last piece of a truth that's been waiting to rise. And then she will come. Your sister, maybe in a message, maybe in person, maybe with a smile that masks the storm. But her soul will feel unsettled, not by your actions but by the presence of heaven, now resting in the room. And in that moment, say only what God places in your mouth, not what pride demands, not what past pain wants to scream. You are not sent to strike, you are sent to reflect. Be a mirror, not a hammer. Let the light in you shine so bright that the shadows can no longer survive. If she breaks, let her. If she runs, let her. If she denies, still love her. Because heaven is handling the parts you cannot reach. Your role is not to fix. Your role is to remain faithful. And beloved, just by receiving this message, you've already begun. There is something rare about your spirit. Where others would have looked away, you leaned in. Where many would have scrolled past, you paused. Where most would have shielded their hearts, you opened yours, even through tears. That is why this moment is yours. And now heaven is releasing what was delayed. Yes, the breakthrough, the answer, the shift. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed truth to enter first. The delay ends now. And the healing begins, not just around you but through you. Let the light lead you forward. Let the silence speak. Let love be your weapon. And let truth be your witness. For heaven has already begun the work, and all of it started with you. There is a reward, beloved soul, and it is drawing near, not in the distant future, but in the quiet unfolding of the days ahead. Within 7 days of this message, reaching the hidden chambers of your spirit, something will begin to shift. Not all at once, but unmistakably, like the moment before dawn when the light first begins to break the line of the horizon. Almost invisible to the eye, yet undeniable to the heart that has waited in the dark. What once felt sealed will begin to open. A conversation you thought was lost forever will return. unexpected, a door that has been locked for years, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, will creak open with no warning but perfect timing. A message will arrive that you stopped hoping for. A person will return, not to repeat the past, but to play a new role in your future. And a prayer you whispered long ago, one you folded away and buried beneath disappointment, will rise to the surface with an answer clear, full, and direct. And it will all trace back to this moment, not because of the pain you endured, but because of the truth you embraced, because you chose to stay in the uncomfortable room where revelation lived, because you chose not to look away when the truth hurt, because you chose healing over ego. You didn't just read the words, you let them read you, and heaven saw it. You are not simply a sibling bound by earthly connection. You are a soul with a sacred assignment etched into your being before you were born. The same voice that formed stars also whispered your name with intention. That's why the adversary fought so hard to blur your vision. Not because of who you were, but because of who you were becoming. But God, in His mercy, has restored your sight. As it is written in Psalm 18:28, "You, Lord, keep my lamp burning. My God turns my darkness into light." What was clouded is now being cleared. What was tangled is being loosened. The season of fog, confusion, and silent suffering is coming to an end. You are stepping into clarity, not just of mind, but of spirit. Archangel Michael, with authority and gentleness, speaks once more. You are entering the season of clear skies. No more wandering through emotional storms. No more questioning your worth in rooms that were never meant to define you. No more feeling like the only one who carries the burden of care while others look away. Heaven has seen everything, and now the hands of God are making all things new. Let your eyes dry, not because the tears weren't valid, but because your spirit is now being lifted above the storm. Let your heart rise, not in denial of what hurt, but in anticipation of what heals. And though your sister may not understand this now, though she may remain silent, resistant, or unaware, there will come a day, perhaps in a quiet moment of her own, when she sits with a memory, or hears a song, or stumbles across something she once shared with you, and in that space of reflection, she will remember, she will feel it, and she will say, "I didn't understand then, but thank you for not giving up on me." The seed you planted, truth watered with love, will not return void. It is written in Isaiah 55:11, "So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." And heaven is faithful to finish what it begins. This right now is not just closure, it is commissioning. The test is nearly over, and the miracle, the restoration, the divine alignment is closer than it's ever been. You've honored this message. You've honored the voice of God. You've made space for the truth, even when it pressed against your comfort. And now, watch what happens next. Not with striving, but with trust. There is one final whisper before Archangel Michael returns to the invisible battlefields where your prayers have already sent him. Heaven says, you are no longer being observed because you are in danger. You are being watched because you have just passed through one of the most sacred spiritual initiations a soul can endure. Facing truth without running, standing in light without covering your eyes, allowing divine exposure without self-defense. That kind of surrender breaks spiritual ceilings. That kind of obedience shifts entire timelines. Most souls spend their lives evading what you faced. Most avoid the mirror of truth when it shows not just others, but themselves. But you remained. You didn't rush to comfort. You didn't numb the sting. You stayed long enough to let the fire refine, not destroy. You didn't close the message. You didn't whisper, "This isn't for me." You listened, you wept, you breathed, you accepted. And that's why heaven now moves, not slowly, not cautiously, but with intention. You are being lifted into a new dimension of peace, of vision, of protection. A realm where clarity becomes your default, not your struggle. Where discernment flows easily and divine timing aligns without resistance. The people meant for your journey will find you without confusion. The opportunities shaped for your purpose will recognize you without competition. The answers you've long waited for will now arrive, unforced, undeniable. Just as the Israelites walked for years without seeing the promise until one morning the manna appeared, so too will your blessing come, not because you fought for it, but because you followed the cloud, because you trusted the voice that said, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. This is your stillness, this is your knowing, this is your release. Heaven rejoices not because the battle is ending, but because your spirit is ready for what comes after. And beloved, what comes next is not survival, it is abundance. You are not the same soul who first carried this burden. You are the one who rose with it and laid it at the feet of the divine. That is why heaven now declares, it is time. In the unseen, where time bends to eternity, someone has been watching your sister, not in judgment, not in anger, but in quiet intercession. A figure from long before either of you was born. A soul tied to your lineage. Perhaps a grandmother who once wept in prayer, perhaps a father's father whose voice echoes through dreams. They have been whispering to her, not in words of correction, but in the silent language of spirit. And though your sister may not fully understand it yet, she has begun to hear them. Something within her is stirring, something ancient, something holy. The veil is thinning, and heaven is reaching for her from within. There will be a breaking soon, not of destruction, but of awakening, a release, a moment where her soul finally lets go of what it has clung to in silence. That moment will not be loud. It may come as a tear in the middle of an ordinary morning, a sigh she cannot explain, a memory that breaks her open. And when it comes, know this: it was your obedience that created the opening. You chose to face the truth. And that choice became a ripple through the spirit realm, a wave of healing that will echo not only forward but backward through generations. You broke the chain. You ended what others had accepted. You stood where silence once ruled and became the voice heaven had been waiting for. And so now, the divine has a question, not as a test, but as an invitation. Are you ready to receive the inheritance that was delayed by deception? Are you ready to be trusted with the blessing that was held in heaven's hands? Until truth could take root in your house, you may already feel it. Something in your chest that no longer feels like fear, but release. That is not anxiety. That is the sound of chains breaking. That is the air shifting. That is the spiritual realm making space for what is to come. For it is written in Joel 2:25, "I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten." And that restoration has begun, not just in your emotions but in your environment. People who once forgot you will remember your name. Doors that ignored your knock will now seek your footsteps. Prayers you thought heaven had folded and set aside are now rising like incense before the throne. Opened, read, answered. Even now, the atmosphere around your home has changed. Though the walls look the same, the spirit in them has shifted. There is peace resting where confusion used to linger. There is divine fire protecting where exhaustion once drained you. Your home is now covered. Your name is now written on the wind of favor. The weapons formed against you, spiritual or otherwise, will no longer prosper because the shield has been activated. This message was your shield and now it becomes your sword. But this sword is not for cutting people. It is for cutting through lies. Speak gently, love deeply, forgive even when it's undeserved, but never again allow deception to stay unchallenged, not even in subtle forms, because now you see, and truth once seen cannot be unseen. And heaven will walk with you to protect what has been revealed. Heaven is proud of you, not for being perfect, but for being willing. Archangel Michael has not left your side, and the Father is smiling, not because you have all the answers, but because you answered when He called. This is your new beginning. This is the next chapter of your story, and it has already begun. Your tears have watered the soil of your destiny, and now the bloom is near. Even your sister, though she may not say it yet, will one day feel it. The love you carry, the quiet, painful, holy love, cannot be ignored forever. It will reach her in time. And when it does, it will not be guilt that changes her, but grace. Keep your heart open. Keep your soul steady. There is more to come, and heaven is still speaking. This is not the end of the message. It is the continuation of a miracle. You were born for this. That is why you couldn't walk away. That is why you couldn't scroll past. Because this message wasn't just written for you. It was written through you. It found you because heaven needed a vessel strong enough to break what others accepted. And now something sacred has happened. A barrier in the spirit, unseen, unspoken, has shattered. Something that clung to your family line for generations has been pierced by your decision. You didn't just choose healing, you chose legacy. You chose truth over comfort, clarity over familiarity, God over pride. You may not realize it yet, but someone, long gone from this world, once cried out for what is happening now. They may not have had language, they may not have had hope, but their spirit groaned. Their prayers rose like smoke in an unseen room. And heaven remembered. That prayer echoed through time until it reached you. And now, you have become the answer to their cry. That is why it had to be you. That is why you were called in the night. That is why every storm in your life tried to break you. Because the enemy knew what you carried. But it is done now. The cycle is broken, the curse is undone, and the battle is over. Your name is now known not for what you've suffered, but for what you overcame. You are the bloodline breaker, the intercessor,